In the United Kingdom, at the High Court of England and Wales, Judge Sarah Cockrell ruled in favor of the Cuban Republic, stating that the Vulture Fund, CRFI Limited, is not a legitimate creditor of the Cuban state. Finland became the 31st member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization Security Alliance. And the Russian health authorities reported that 40 people, including 3 minors, were injured and sought medical attention after a terrorist attack at a St. Petersburg cafeteria on April the 2nd. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. In the United Kingdom, at a hearing held on Tuesday at the High Court of England and Wales, Judge Sarah Cockrell ruled in favor of the Cuban Republic, stating that the Vulture Fund, CRFI Limited, is not a legitimate creditor of the Cuban state. The judicial procedure was set to determine whether the fund had a legitimate claim to Cuban debt or not. Tuesday's court ruling confirmed that irregularities committed by officials from the Central Bank of Cuba during the CRF's alleged acquisition of Cuban financial tools were reasonable grounds for the Cuban government to decline its consent to assign the debt in favor of the fund. It also reaffirmed, as the Caribbean island argued, that the central bank did not have the legal capacity or authority to represent the country. All of the above ratified that the CRF is not a legitimate holder of the financial tools it claims against Cuba and did not have the right to establish the claim in London. Thereafter, the proceeding will continue only against the Cuban National Bank, which has the right to establish the claims permitted by the English law. In the United States, more than 1,000 Nashville students walked out of the schools to demand stronger gun laws after last week's mass shooting at a small private school in the city. The walkout outside Tennessee State Capitol marked 1 week since the city police received the first call about an active shooter at the Covenant School who killed 3 children and 3 adult staff members on March 27th. The protest was mobilized through March for Our Lives, a youth-led movement for stricter gun laws that was formed after the 2018 shooting that killed 17 students and staff at a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Meanwhile, the governor, Bill Lee, proposed over $100 million to place an armed security guard at every Tennessee public school and boost physical school security at both public and private schools. We now move on to other topics. In Mexico, an earthquake of magnitude 5.5 was registered on Monday with its epicenter in the southern state of Oaxaca near the seaside resort of Puerto Escondido. The National Seismological Service informed that the seismic alert was activated in areas of the state of Oaxaca and Mexico City. The earthquake had its epicenter 17 kilometers north of Puerto Escondido at a depth of 26 kilometers. Meanwhile, Civil Protection announced that since the activation of the alert, it has been in communication with state and municipal units to make a preliminary evaluation of the zone. So far, no casualties nor material damage have been reported. On Tuesday, rains and floods continue in northwestern Peru, leaving hundreds of people affected. Thousands of families were forced to abandon their homes due to the flooding, while rainfall forecasts for northern Peru continue to exceed 75 millimeters per day in the regions of Tumbes and Piura. As a result of the persistent rains, which have generated avalanches, river overflows, and mudslides, there are road closures in the districts of Sechura and Huancabamba in the Piura region. The heavy rains, which increased in the north and center of the country during the March following the cyclone Yaku, have left 69 people dead and 80,000 affected by the landslides, floods, and mudslides since January.
It was better for us to stay inside, without touching electrical connections, but as I tell you, the rain has been the heaviest of all. I think so, and hopefully it will be the last, although they are already telling us that it is likely to continue.
In Colombia, efforts continue to evacuate several communities following the increase of the activity of Nevado del Ruiz volcano. According to local authorities, the orange alert will be maintained due to the possibility of an eruption of the Nevado del Ruiz volcano, which has provoked high levels of seismic activity in the country. Officials affirmed that they will maintain the evacuation of the communities settled close to the volcano's crater, a process that has already begun in municipalities of the department of Caldas, Tolima. In this context, experts assure that it is necessary to take preventive measures, since the seismicity may indicate that the volcanic material is approaching the surface and releasing the gases.
It is a high seismicity, high enough to think it could explode. However, it is very important to keep in mind that this seismicity might be that the material is approaching the surface and releasing gases. So if it is released gases, it would stagnate, cool down, and return yellow. So we are just at that moment where it is better to take preventive measures, but to keep in mind the uncertainty ranges.
And also in Ecuador, the death toll from the landslide that hit the municipality of Alausí over a week ago rose on Monday to 29, according to data from the Attorney General's office. The public ministry confirmed through Twitter that rescuers had found another corpse in the rubble. They also informed that rescue efforts are still underway. In its most recent report, published last Saturday, the Risk Management Secretariat indicated that 850 people were affected. Many of them were left homeless and are currently in temporary shelters. In addition, a total of 163 houses were seriously damaged and 57 have been totally destroyed. It is unknown how many people may remain underground, while the danger of further landslides persists due to the presence of cracks higher in the mountain. Now we move on to other topics. The death toll in the protests against Peru's president-designate Dina Boluarte rose to 69 after the death on Monday of 37-year-old Manuel Quilla. According to the victim's relatives, Quilla was tortured in a police station in Lima. With his death, there are now 69 deceased in the protests, of which 50 fatalities are attributed to extrajudicial executions, according to social organizations monitoring the situation. Quilla had gone to Lima to take part in the demonstrations against the president and the government of Dina Boluarte, a situation in which he was surrounded and beaten by the police. According to human rights organizations, Quilla's death becomes one of more elements for the investigations and the key to determining the violations by the regime of Boluarte, who was appointed president by the Congress last December the 7th, after the ousting of the constitutional president Pedro Castillo. We remain in Peru. On Tuesday, the Peruvian Congress will evaluate whether or not to admit for debate a motion of vacancy against the current president, Dina Boluarte, regarding the deaths during the social demonstrations. According to the parliament, each legislative group will have 5 minutes to state its position, while those not grouped will have 2 for a maximum of 10 minutes. In this context, in a document signed by several parties such as Perú Libre, Perú Democrático, and Cambio Democrático, the responsibility of the president regarding the disproportionate use of force by the armed forces and the national police against the demonstrators was detailed, considering that these institutions are constitutionally subordinated to the head of state. The document also pointed out that the death toll that could be attributed to the repression by the current government was unprecedented in the country's history. Let's take a short break. But first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Tuesday, Finland became the 31st member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization Security Alliance. As part of the protocol, Finnish Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto handed the accession document to the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who declared Finland a member in a joining ceremony oversaw by NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg at the organization's headquarters in Brussels. In this sense, Stoltenberg hailed the accession as a good day for Finland's security, for Nordic security, and for NATO as a whole. Finland, alongside Sweden, applied to join NATO in May 2022, setting aside years of military non-alignment policy. And in the framework of Finland becoming the 31st member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken hailed the accession as historic.
Truly a historic day because very shortly, as the Secretary General said, we will be welcoming Finland into the alliance, to its seat at the table.
Meanwhile, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said Finland's accession into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization will lead to countermeasures and risks a significant expansion of the conflict in Ukraine, although he insisted it will not affect the outcome.
Finland will become a member of the NATO alliance in the near future. Of course, all this creates risks of a significant expansion of the conflict, but it will not affect the outcome of the special operation. Given these conditions, we are taking countermeasures to defend the security of the Union state.
In Russia on Tuesday, health authorities reported that 40 people, including 3 minors, were injured and sought medical attention after a terrorist attack at a St. Petersburg cafeteria last Sunday, April the 2nd. The explosion occurred during a meeting held by war blogger Maxim Fomin, known under the pen name Vladimir Tatarsky, who was killed instantly. According to Russian journalists, 25 people remain in St. Petersburg's hospitals, the condition of 5 of them being severe. Meanwhile, police said that they have arrested a 26-year-old woman who confessed having taken a statuette carrying the explosive to the meeting. According to the Russian National Anti-Terrorist Committee, the attack was planned by Ukrainian special services. In the Netherlands, north of The Hague, at least 1 person died and 30 were injured, 19 of them seriously after the derailment of a train carrying about 50 passengers in the town of Woerdschutten. The accident occurred at around 3:25 a.m. local time, according to emergency services, when the train hit construction machinery left on the tracks. Injured passengers were treated at private homes near the tracks and later transported to hospitals. Rail network company ProRail's chief executive John Wopen called the accident a dark day for Dutch railroads. A warning has been issued about a boat in danger in the mid-Mediterranean carrying some 500 asylum seekers. Sea conditions are making rescue difficult. The warning came in Tuesday through Alarm Phone, a telephone service that gets calls from barges that are in danger. This network sends the updated coordinates to the authorities, urging them to intervene. The barge in question is in the vicinity of Malta. There are 2 cargo ships in the area, but they do not have the capacity to carry out a massive rescue. Joining the effort is the GEO Barents, a ship belonging to the NGO Doctors Without Borders, but bad weather has so far hindered the rescue of the asylum seekers. And Australia has joined on Tuesday a number of countries in banning the TikTok app on all government devices. Attorney General Mark Dreyfus said the decision follows advice from the country's intelligence agencies, and that it will be implemented as soon as possible. Previously, the United States, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, France, the Netherlands, and the European Commission had made the same decision on the grounds that the app, which has over 1 billion users worldwide, could be used to collect data that could be allegedly shared with the Chinese government. Meanwhile, TikTok executives have criticized the move, saying such a ban is xenophobic and a form of censorship. The Chinese Foreign Ministry on Tuesday filed complaints against Australia following the announcement of a TikTok ban on government devices.
have noticed the reports and have made strong demands to the Australian side. China always believed that data security should not be used as a tool to generalize the national security concept and abuse state power to hobble foreign companies. We urge Australia to earnestly abide by the rules of market economies and principles of fair competition, and to provide a fair, transparent, and non-discriminatory business environment for Chinese companies.
TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries using StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday morning in Bangladesh, a massive fire broke out and quickly spread throughout a cheap, popular clothing market in the capital, destroying thousands of small stores. The fire started at the Banga Bazaar market in Dhaka at around 6:10 a.m. local time, but no casualties were immediately reported. The fire department and the army worked hard to put out the fire in the shortest time possible. Still, it took 6 hours and the whole area was reduced to a pile of ashes. Fires breaking at a commercial places in Bangladesh are not uncommon, especially at places with low supervision and lack of fire safety measures. The market is a popular destination for cut-price Western fashion brands, selling clothes that were produced in the city's garment factories but failed to meet export standards. Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi has lodged an appeal against his defamation conviction, hoping to overturn a judgment that resulted in his expulsion from parliament. A court in Gujarat state's Surat city accepted his petition on Monday and posted it for hearing on April 13th. The 52-year-old son of the Nehru Gandhi family and leader of the Congress party was found guilty of defamation by the Surat court over comments he made in a speech in 2019. India's parliament disqualified the political leader after the sentencing, as the law that governs elections in India mandates disqualification of any lawmaker who is convicted of any offense and sentenced to imprisonment for not less than 2 years. Gandhi said his disqualification from parliament was because he had been asking Prime Minister Narendra Modi what he called tough questions over his relationship with Gautam Adani, the founder of the Adani conglomerate. In Syria, at least 2 people were killed after a new Israeli attack in Damascus. This is the 4th aggression against the Arab country in a week. According to preliminary information, the projectiles came from the occupied Golan Heights, and it was specified that one of them was aimed at a raider in the Sweida refugee camp, while another one hit a glass factory in the Al-Kiwash area, killing the 2 civilians. Previously, it was learned that the missiles also hit the vicinity of Damascus International Airport, as well as an Iranian compound near the Sayyida Zainab area, while Syrian anti-aircraft defense intercepted at least 2 of them. With this new attack, Tel Aviv deepens the policy of aggression against Syria. On April the 4th, we remember the 55th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee, a leader of the civil rights movement whose legacy in the fight for equality still inspires those who fight for justice in the United States and the world. The activist, who played a decisive role in the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, was shot on April 4th, 1968, while greeting his followers from the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in the city of Memphis. Luther King was was arrested several times for his activities. The Reverend was also the target of numerous assaults, and just a week before that tragic day, he was in that city to support the strike of black garbage workers who were demanding better working conditions. His assassination provoked massive demonstrations. His fight for the respect of the human rights of the Afro-American population, of the poorest, and of all the victims of injustice is still a pending issue in the United States. And despite the enactment of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, which helped to eliminate racial segregation in the United States, Luther King considered that there was a lack of social measures that will give visibility to the socio-economic situation of African Americans. With a fragment of his speech, "I Have a Dream," he managed to make on August 28, 1963, at the monument to Abraham Lincoln, we bid farewell to our broadcast. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.
That one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.